Hello, ladies. It's Renee, host of the Welcome to Your Life podcast. Have you thought of recording your own podcast, but the thought of learning new technology was too frightening? I know exactly how you feel. That's how I felt until I found Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place, and it's free. You can record from your phone or your computer, and the creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll even distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many, many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Trust me, you will not regret it. You don't make progress by standing on the sidelines, whimpering and complaining. You make progress by implementing ideas. Shirley Chisholm. Hello, truth seekers. You are listening to the Welcome to Your Life podcast. I am your host, Renee Reed. Welcome to Your Life is an Atlanta-based lifestyle podcast for women, helping you to live the life you deserve. Yes, you can get organized, live a balanced life, and get rid of your belly fat. If you're looking for tips on relationships, wellness, parenting, and lifestyle hacks, you've found your tribe. Welcome home. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe. And for those of you with a little extra change in your pocket, please share some holiday cheer and consider becoming a monthly donor. Your gifts help to sustain our community and provide for future episodes. In today's episode, I had the pleasure of interviewing Paulette Goodman. Paulette is one of the owners of D&L Operations, and she's going to give us some insight on the ups and downs of being a female business owner in a male-dominated industry. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Paulette Goodman. Paulette is the owner of D&L Operations, and today she is going to give us some insight as to what it's like to own a business in a male-dominated industry, and also to give us budding entrepreneurs some encouragement and some tools we can use when the going gets a little rough and we want to quit. So, Paula, how are you today?
I'm very well. How about yourself?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for being with us. We are starting our entrepreneur series, and you are our very first guest. So thank you.
And thank you for having me.
Sure. So tell us, how did you get started with D&L Operations?
Well, D&L Operations was basically started by my husband. And I was just actually supposed to just be back in the scene just to help her. And as time progressed, some different family challenges took place. So then I therefore became the face of the business. And after that process went on, we're basically in business together, my husband, myself, and my son. And we just work as a team trying to, just grow the business and expand.
That is awesome. You know what they say, behind every man there is a great woman pushing him on. So you just let us know that that is not only a cliche, but it's true. Tell us, what is what's your day like? What's a typical day like in your business?
Well, one thing with this trucking business, anything can become unexpected with the business. So in the run of a day, from the day starts at 5 in the morning, after the guys get off to work, basically it's just being there as a problem solver and they troubleshooting. And it's just making sure that things run smoothly. If they have any questions, I'm available to answer those or solve any problems that might come up. So it's like they're dispatching, and I just keep a check of the stops that are being completed. If I see something that is not done, just calling them or shooting them a text saying, hey, you forgot to do this, or did we do this? It just basically kind of runs like that. It's just an ongoing cycle. And one thing with trucking business that I never knew anything about, it's ongoing. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when you're trying to wind down, you're still working.
Oh, wow. So tell us, you're in a trucking industry, correct?
Yes.
What exactly are you moving goods from from point A to point B, or what exactly are the guys doing during the day?
Right now, we're just doing general freight. So we're just all local. We used to go interstate and interstate. We were going out of town and, over the as you could say, that line out of Ohio. And right now we're just local, because whenever you go over into PA, you're out of that Ohio guideline, and then you become interstate. So right now we're just interstate, and we're locally doing general freight where we deliver for another carrier company, and we just deliver either to residential or commercial businesses.
Oh, great. Wow. So I know you said this is not, you were just meant to be a helper as your husband started the company. And so this was not something that you planned on doing as a young girl growing up in Cleveland, Ohio.
Exactly.
So what was it like to change gears and to pick up the mantle of, running the business? And kind of, did you have to put your dreams aside in order to become the head of the company?
Yeah, it's basically put everything aside and focus. And I think starting off with it, when that had to take place, it was very scary. And since we had some family crisis, my biggest thing was not letting it fall apart, because it was my husband's dream and I didn't want it to fall apart. So it really was a lot of prayer and the grace of God and his mercy all wrapped up in one, just
right.
to keep things going, because you never have all the answers. And it's always some different obstacle coming from some different way. And even at this time, we don't have all the answers. But it's just being able to just really stop and think. And I just had to do a lot of praying.
And that is the key, right?
The key to it all.
So I know that your staff is 100% male, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How do they feel about taking instruction from a woman?
It's not easy at all. It's some things, that I can say that they might think it's coming from the woman's side, or it's my hormonal thoughts or whatever, where my husband can say something and it's taken in a totally different perspective. So you have to come to accept, as of when we first started off in it, which is 3 years now that we've been in business, it was come almost like, a fighting. And then I had to come to the point that it's not even important about that. It's either making a statement, letting it be done. As long as things are getting done, it doesn't matter who says it. If I need to say something, I say it. But we have adjusted roles now where most of that area I have now, relinquished it to my husband and my son. And I only, if I have to, intervene in that area. You got to find out where you fit in the whole equation, because there's sometimes, even when you're pursuing contracts and reaching out, that they won't even deal with you because you're a woman. It doesn't matter. Even if you're taking all the information, they'll talk right over you. And my husband will always redirect and say, well, my wife handles that. But it doesn't matter, because it is a male-dominant industry, and it's very rough in that area. It's like pulling teeth. So it's sometimes you have to take the back seat in order to accomplish something. It doesn't matter what your position is or what you're doing, because it is a male-dominant industry.
That's amazing. And that was going to be my next question. Have you ever had any pushback from other either trucking agencies or with places that you were trying to acquire contracts because you are a woman in their field?
Yeah, we had one contract that basically, if I just back up just a little bit, how we got started is from my husband was working for another trucker that he had his own company, and he was a driver. And the guy just decided one day, I'm pulling all my trucks. And my husband had thought about, wanting to do this. He had mentioned it, but never thought it would come, like, say, yesterday. And it dropped into his lap, and within 2 weeks, he was a business owner. And as time went on, we had some family issues where he wasn't able to just be the face of everything. And from that, it was a woman who actually was the individual writing, signing the contracts. You would meet with her, and she was running that area for the company. Well, she gave me the biggest pushback, which you would think it wouldn't have been her being a female, and I'm a female. When my husband's face was not the face of the company, she gave me the worst pushback, who encouraged the men that were actually over her to push back, and we eventually had to walk away from that contract.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you would think that it wouldn't have came from her, but she was actually the one pushing the more pushback than the guys was, and they just jumped on board with her to support her.
Wow. So have you found any allies in the field now that you've been in it for 3 years?
Yes, it has gotten better and developed relationships, and I was able to acquire some additional contracts where I met with, owners, which were men, and it was successful. So as time comes, you have to learn a different approach, a different way to go. Sometimes I can just walk in and say, I am one of the co-owners, and I'm here to fill out the information. Then there are times when I have to say, I am just the person that handles all of the signing of the information. My husband is the owner of the business. It's just learning your opponent and how to finesse it, basically, is what it is. And now with this latest contract that we have now, it's basically it's ran by women. So it was open arms, and it was very easier because of the fact they were glad to see another woman. So it was even more easier to actually get that contract started.
Wow, that is amazing. So you have a family business that you and your husband have started. What is your biggest dream for your business?
Well, the biggest dream is to own our own warehouse, actually own it, to own our own trucks, and just expand our business as far as God will allow. I would like to see us actually having businesses set up out of state and even within Ohio areas, but I would like to see us expand out of state. I would like to also see it expand to where we're certified as CDL drivers, so that we're moving more in bigger part of the trucking industry. So that's what I would like to see.
That's amazing.
And maybe expand other little companies from this company, transportation service, group homes. But this is the base of the company, but just birthing other companies out of this one company.
That is amazing. And, that's how we build financial legacies for our children. I know you have children and grandchildren, and just being able to leave them something so that they don't have to struggle the way we had to struggle when we were younger. And also showing them that they can have a dream to work for themselves if they'd like to, that it's not impossible.
Right.
Do you think that as your company grows, you'll be able to bring on more family members into the mix?
That is the goal, being that we have so many grandchildren. That is one of the goals. But the only thing, I know we hadn't got to that, the pros and the cons. The only thing with the cons of that you learn as you go along, you have to separate family from business. You're my son. I'm not your mother. You're not my husband. You're not my wife. We are business owners. And you got to learn how to separate that. You got to learn how to not wear your feelings on your sleeve, which can be very hard sometimes. You got to really treat it just like you're working on a job where you're not related to anybody, just if you was working on a job that you didn't own. It's just certain things you wouldn't do, and that's the same way you got to carry those things over into a family business, and you really, really need to establish boundaries and ground rules. And when we started this business, we knew nothing about it. So, and you don't find people that want to share information. So it's basically learning how to do this step by step yourself, and it's so much to it. It's so many different types of insurance. It's so many different things you need, so many different licensing you need. It's just a lot to it. And then also starting it, knowing what you're getting into and how the billing is set up, when you get paid, and how to bid for the contract, how to bid on jobs. There's just a lot of stuff to learn, and sometimes you want to go high, but you got to go low just to get your foot in the door. And it's just a lot to it that we wouldn't have never thought was into. You would think you just get a truck, get in it, get some business, and keep going, but it doesn't work like that. It is so much attached to being in the trucking business.
Wow. How would you say you have expanded spiritually, personally, since you've been in business? How do you think you've grown?
Well, it has stretched me to a capacity I never know I could stretch that far. It has humbled me. It has showed me what role God really plays in my life. I've experienced His power. I've experienced His blessing, because a lot of people think when you start a business, oh, you're a business owner. That's just a title. When you start a business, unless you come from a wealthy family and got money, it's not, I would say, something to brag on, because you're just another worker, just like the people that you hire. And you got to keep working. Being an owner, being a manager, all of those things are titles. Basically, you're just a worker. That's what it is. And so in those areas, I can say some other jobs that I've had, I've been blessed with the things that God allowed me to experience and be exposed to, that I was able to transition over in this job. So that was the blessing part. But when it comes to time when the finances don't meet, the expansion, but you're there, or you done expand it, but you lose a contract or have to let a contract go, but the finances are still there that you got to pay out. It teaches you how to say you got a penny, and you turn that penny into another 50 cents and another 50 cents into $1, and you just stretching. It has really taught me how to understand that it don't take a lot to live and how you can live off a little.
Right. So do you think that that's why a lot of businesses do go out of business? Because people go into it thinking, I'm going to be my own boss, but, and I can do what I want now, but they really haven't taken time to take into account all that it takes to really run a business and run it successfully?
I will say that I believe that's one of the things that it could possibly be, amongst many others that you think, okay, I got a business now, here I am. I done arrived, which it could be 10 years now before you arrive just a little bit. And the biggest thing is staying relevant, because you can be up today and down tomorrow. Also, I think not planning, not understanding, and if you make, say, $500 more this week, you feel that you should increase how much you take out, but not understanding you got to save for rainy days, for emergencies, because this business is just like a maybe. You might have it today and might not have it tomorrow. So I think financially, I think not properly planning, I think not having goals set, not meeting goals can cause you to give up. And I also feel that when it gets rough, people don't want to push through the roughness. You're just ready to throw in the towel. Many times I say, I'm done with this. I can't do it. But in my heart, I literally wasn't giving up. That's just how I fleshly felt at that moment, or what I was going through, because it can be very frustrating. And when you're constantly tug-of-warring sometime amongst each other, nobody's agreeing. You come to the table and you leave worse than it was when you came there. So a lot of those things can cause people to go out of business, or not start a business, or not even, want to put forth the effort to keep going.
Right. That's so true. And let me backtrack a little bit, because you mentioned that when you're working with family, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs, when they start, they're, hiring cousins and sisters and brothers. But how do you think that this has, being in business with your husband, so you see each other a lot more than you would if, you went to your 9-to-5 and he went to his 9-to-5. How do you think that has affected your marriage, your relationship, being together on the job and off the job?
Well, as far as us seeing each other, being together more, I don't think that's our biggest issue. I think our biggest issue was the fact my husband has been in this industry for many, many more years, over 20-plus years, and I'm just coming into actually being in it, even though I got knowledge of it from things he's shared and even the stuff that he's taught me. And I think sometimes I might forget, okay, that he's been in this industry, and then sometimes he forget, even though she hasn't, there's still something she can contribute, and we bump heads sometimes. And even with our son, it's the same way. And then I guess with me and my son's area, we have so many qualities that are alike that we bump heads, but at the end of the day, that plays a big part. But as for our marriage, is that part of being around each other, that's not the issue. It's just the issue of the bump in the head. But even with that, it has come to a different place, because it's like we're learning our roles. and he'll take a back seat, and sometimes I'll take a back seat. So it's coming a little more easier. It's coming together a lot better than it was when we first started.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what would you say has been your greatest triumph since opening your business?
Greatest triumph. Still being in business.
Yes. That is a triumph. You're
Hanging
right.
on by a thread, but still fighting because we know it's a bigger picture. And if someone else can do it, why can't we?
Exactly. Yes.
So I think that, for me, that's my biggest triumph that I see, that we're still in business and we're still hanging on.
Wow. That's awesome. So the flip side of that, can you tell us about a low point that you experienced and how you pulled yourself out of it?
I think the lowest point is going from having 4 trucks and multiple contracts, and just from one contract you are collecting $9,000 to $12,000 a week, to going down to barely being able to make your payroll and not having nothing for yourself to pay your bills, and you're at the point of being evicted. I think that's the lowest point for me. That's the lowest point. And at that point, when I was there, God taught me just a simple little thing, because it was so much coming from different ways, and what we're going to do here, what we're going to do there, and it's just like, I can only do one day at a time. I don't know what we're going to do tomorrow, but this is how we're going to do this today.
Wow.
And
okay.
that is my little saying, even when it get rough now, when it gets to asking me multiple questions, because my husband, man, rose. Even if he ain't talking to you, he might not say a lot, but he's thinking. And then when it hit him, he want to talk about it, this, and he thinks he thinks backwards than forward. He gonna think about what's the worst could happen, where I might be looking at the positive side.
Okay.
And I'm like, I can only do one day at a time. I can't do that right now. And for him, that's frustrating. Why you can't do it right now? Don't you know this can happen? But for me, it's still, if it does, what can I do? I only can do what I can do to get through this point right here. And that is really what the sanity I had to make it from that point to where we at now, just going one day at a time.
Wow. Is that the advice you would give to other people other entrepreneurs who are in business, who find themselves, struggling and, maybe wanting to throw in the towel?
I would tell them to make sure it's really what they want to do. I would tell them, once they get the knowledge and the information and how to set it up, how to start a business, be willing to share it, because there's so many people out there want to do the same thing you're doing, but they might not have that willpower, that get up and go, or someone that can push them or guide them. They just need you to tell them how to get started. Be willing to share information. So many people have information and want to keep it to themselves and don't want to share it, because whatever God has for you, he has for you. It doesn't matter if you share it. Nobody can steal your idea. Nobody can take anything from you, because it was designed for you, so they wouldn't be able to do it, and they're not going to be successful with it anyway. My other advice would be for them to work on their personal credit, because that's going to take you farther than if you got any dime. That if you don't have money, you're able to get money. I would tell them to have a plan, set goals. If they're going to go in business with family, that they set boundaries. They set up rules and regulations, and that everybody know their role, and everybody knows everybody's role, just in case one person's not there, but everybody do their job, and it'll make everything else go smoother. I would tell them to, when it gets rough, if you don't know Jesus, you're going to know Jesus. And you need to just push through and know that nothing happens overnight. If it happens that quick, you're not going to keep it because you didn't put forth any effort to get it. So that would basically be my advice to anybody that's looking, whether it's to start a business or whatever they're pursuing to do.
Wow, that's some really great advice. And, you know, I want to ask you, you know, a lot of times when we're starting businesses, the people around us who we think would be supportive, our family, our friends, those are the ones that give us the least support sometimes. Have you experienced that in your own family or friends since starting your business?
More so in family, your immediate family, and it's not a jealousy. It can be, some of it is jealousy, and it has been kind of rough with the three of us being in business. But see, sometimes that comes from your own insecurity. And if you're insecure with yourself, it doesn't matter what goes on, that you're going to feel out of place or somebody's doing something or you're getting the short end of the stick. And that's the biggest, one of the biggest obstacles for me, being a mother on one side of the owner that I am in business with, and the wife of the other side of the owner that I'm in business with. So you sometimes feel like a rubber band, but that's about the biggest thing I would say with that.
Okay. So let me ask you this. I know you're working. You said you never get to stop working.
Yes.
How do you practice self-care?
Well, honestly, self-care has been pretty rough, and that is something that I am starting to take more attention to, because I'm putting a stop to when I'm going to do something, when I'm not going to do it, from the littlest thing to the least. No, I'm not going to talk about that right now. I'm done. I'm not doing any D&L today, or we're not doing it this. But then I know it's days where I can't cut off because there are deadlines. Like now we're in a situation where it's deadlines. So it's like I'm taking this moment now to just wind down and not do anything dealing with it. But honestly, I do need to be, because I'm reaching a deadline. There's certain things that has to be done because we're transitioning into something else. So those are just learning when you can't cut it off and when to cut it off. And that's what I'm working on now, just to take out time for me and not care about what anybody else is thinking.
So what
and
are some of the things
accessible to somebody all the time?
Oh, right, exactly, because you have to guard your own mental and physical health in order to keep going with your business.
Right.
So what are some of the things you like to do when you have downtime?
I like to play my games. I like to read. Sometimes I don't want to do nothing, just lay and be still.
Right.
I like to be with my family. I enjoy being with my family. I like when me and my husband might do a movie or something, or even we're not doing nothing. He in his area, I'm in mine. It's just a simple fact that we're still here together. I just sometimes just nothing. I don't want to do nothing.
And sometimes that's the best self-care, just
right.
being still and doing nothing.
Right.
And giving your body and your mind a chance to rest and to wind down.
Yeah.
So let's picture, or let's go forward 10 years. Where do you see yourself and your business?
I see myself able to travel. I see myself able to be going from different cities and states at the different businesses that we have set up. and I see myself embracing my group home. Just really diving into my group home, what I really want.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I really want to thank you for being with us today and for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge. And do you have any final words that you'd like to tell our listeners, especially those who are thinking of starting their own businesses?
One key thing is building relationships. You will be surprised with building relationships, how God can use those people to later bless you and open doors for you that you want, but you didn't think that would come that soon. So building key relationships is a very important thing when you are starting a business, running a business, because you got to understand it's not you against the world. You got to network. You got to connect. That's how you grow. So building relationships is very important. And hopefully when you do part 2 of this series, I'll be able to share with you guys on what was the effect of relationships we built and what was the outcome of those relationships being built.
Oh, that would be awesome. And thank you. If someone wants to get in touch with you guys, how can they get in touch with you?
They can email D&L Operations 15@gmail.com, or they can email D&L Operations PG@gmail.com. We are transitioning into another location, and then the next time, or I will forward you the information if anybody looking once we get settled through this transition.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being with us today. I truly learned a lot about the trucking industry that I didn't know, but also I'm encouraged to keep going on my entrepreneurial journey and to really start to make a plan and make some goals and stick with it.
Yes. But thank you for having me, and I hope the information was helpful, and I look forward to being with you all again.
Thank you. You don't make progress by standing on the sidelines, whimpering and complaining. You make progress by implementing ideas. Shirley Chisholm.